You know what, Frank? You know what, Frank? Look at how shiny Eric's sunglasses are. I think they've been in a drawer for 19 years, and he's finally just so happy to break them out.
They are from the 80s, because that's risky business. Tom Cruise and sunglasses.
Well, Tom Cruise, when he let himself go a little bit, I'm afraid. But, yeah.
No, just the sunglasses, not the person.
Welcome all into another episode, a podcast episode, playoff version number 2. Yes, this is the Average Albertan Podcast. We are back to eat some humble pie and to take a look at our predictions in round 1. We'll look at each of the 8 series. Going to focus on the Canadian teams, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I do have to admit, I have to give some props to Eric for calling the Maple Leafs. So yes, I am adorned in a Maple Leaf jersey. How I got this jersey? Well, we're not going to go through that. But yes, I do have a Maple Leafs jersey. And congratulations to the Leafs, to the Oilers for making it through to the second round. We will talk last round. We will talk next round. We will talk everything in between. Alberta Average Podcast coming right up with the panel. Playoffs. Without further ado, let's bring the panel back in. We have George Armstrong coming in here, better known as Eric. Welcome back, Eric. We have Ryan back on the episode, big-time Oiler fan, and of course from the East Coast, but we still welcome him to Alberta. Anyway, we have Frank from Montreal. So Frank, Eric, Ryan, welcome back to the podcast. Eric is all in his glory right now as the Leafs make the second round. I think, other than Seattle, I think they were the longest standing team never to make the second round of the playoffs, going back, I don't know, 10, 15 years, but they are in round
19.
Number 2. So welcome, guys. Ryan, we'll start with you. How'd you enjoy that first round?
How can you expect me to sit on this panel when there's two of you wearing Leaf clothing?
Eric, little high five here, Eric. Little high five. There we go. All right. We got the Leafs in there.
First round was great. A little bit of nervousness in game 4, but Oilers decided to smarten up at the right time and get the job done. Never look back.
All right. Frank, how about you? How you enjoyed that first round? I know we got a lot of, topics to go through a little bit later on where we'll get into the nitty gritty, but general overview of that first round as a hockey fan.
Crazy ass first round in both hockey and for those watching NBA. There's the same type of craziness going on in all sports this spring, so it must be something in the air. It's crazy, and it's fun for the fans that are on the right side of the fence, obviously.
All right, and Eric, I know it's been a while. It has been a while since your Leafs got this far in the playoffs. So
Eric was 50 pounds lighter when the Leafs won a first round game.
I think he was like 0.123 more sober as well. So. All right, Eric.
Frank, thanks very much. Yeah, are you kidding? So, first off, we need to explain George Armstrong because we probably have a young crowd. George Armstrong is the last Leaf captain to hoist the cup. Of course, unfortunately, the man passed in 2021, the ripe age 90. So he was an older guy. But yeah, so in honor of that, here we are. We're so close. Yeah, this is it's been fantastic. Of course, there's the Leaf part, but we are definitely going to be talking Bruins because I know there's some panelists here who just love the Bruins. Oh, they're the greatest ever. Yeah, where are they? So I am stoked.
Well, it was good to have Eric on the show today. It's unfortunate that he had internet connection issues, but maybe next time we'll get a chance to hear a little bit more about his take on the Bruins.
I have to make a comment before he comes back, but this is half joking because that's how Leaf fans reacted like they won the cup. You can be happy, but to be elated, too much.
I'm right here, Frank. I'm right here, buddy.
Round 1 of 4. Yes, I can only imagine what Leaf fans will be like if they win it and go into the third round.
I will not be able to speak sentences. It'll be like this. Like that. That's what it'll be. So
is there enough alcohol in Toronto to get through another round? That's what I want to know.
Who knows? We'll see.
Okay, well,
By the way, I called the Leafs also against.
Yes, he did. In honor of Frank, I was tempted to wear. I have a Canadiens toque because, of course, I'm Canadian, and I have a Canadiens jersey, and I was going to wear that today, and that's 29 degrees here today. So, needless to say, it just wouldn't be pleasant. But yeah, so. As the only other panelist who actually picked, and then of course Frank said and then laughed, and then they'd lose to the Bruins. We know that's not going to happen. So
there was an expert panel that Eric Engels posted, and he wrote, every single one of us had Boston winning the series against the Devils, and none of us had it in 7. That's how sure we were Boston was going to win.
All right. Well, we'll leave that series for just a little bit before we get started with episode number 2 of the playoffs. If you are watching this and you want to be part of this fun, if you are anti-Leafs or anti-Bruins or anti-Habs, good-natured Canuck fan, Jet fan, Senator fan, leave a comment below and get a hold of me. Send me an email in the email section of this video, and we'll chat because, we're looking for some more Canadian, good-natured Canadian hockey fans from other cities to be part of this. Calgary too. Yeah, Calgary.
Well, you don't have to.
Calgary, Habs, Senators. Even if you're a Leaf fan, Eric needs a friend. He really does. He needs a friend. All right, guys, let's get to it. Before we get into the second round, let's recap what went on in that first round. And I'm going to start. I admit, I don't know what overcame me. I did not get many of these right. In fact, I do not know much about the East because I was 0 for 4. 0 for 4 in the East.
It takes a lot of talent, to do that. 0 for 4 is as good as 4 for 4.
That takes talent, Frank. It really does.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I only play fantasy hockey because if I made any wagers on this, I had 2 out of 8. I did pick Dallas. I did pick Edmonton. But yeah, I am embarrassed, and I'm glad I'm mainly the host and do not give expert insight into the NHL because let's move on. Let's move on to Frank's choices.
Who's getting roasted here?
Frank didn't do much better. He only had 1 out of the 4 teams. Give him credit. He took the Leafs, upsetting, I guess not upsetting, but beating the Lightning. But he was only 1 for 4 in the East. In the West, he was 2 for 4. And Frank and I both had the Bruins meeting up with the Avalanche in the final. And that is not going to happen. That truly is fantasy hockey for that to happen. So Frank did a little better than me. He went 3 for 8. Ryan nailed Carolina, nailed Florida, didn't get the Rangers or the Lightning. He got Dallas and he got Edmonton. So that's a huge victory. Ryan went 4 for 8, hitting 500. And if this was baseball, he would get a multi-million-dollar contract for hitting 500. He would be the Ohtani of playoff picks.
I don't even need to read the contract. Give me the contract.
Yeah. So if you want Ryan on your podcast, reach out and get no. And then we had Eric. Eric nailed Carolina, nailed Florida, nailed the Leafs, got Edmonton. All he needed to do was go with the favored Dallas, and he would have been victorious. But Eric, 4 for 8 in the first round as well. We all missed out on Colorado. We all missed out on the Rangers. None of us were brave enough to go with New Jersey. And we were all fans of Winnipeg Jets upsetting Vegas. So, Frank, let's start with you on this one. What went wrong with these predictions?
Crazy ass playoffs. Seattle, hats off to them. They had a good season, but nobody had them beating the Avalanche. So, look, that's playoff hockey. You know, you got timing. You know, Boston had injuries, even though Ryan discounts that, but they had injuries, and they also didn't play for anything the last 2 months of the season. Whereas Florida, they had 2% chance of making the playoffs back in December, January. You know, they were bottom 10 in the league, and they clawed their way back, and they made the playoffs in the last week, I think. So they were battle ready. But Winnipeg, same situation, but the difference with Winnipeg is Hellebuck was in nets for 13 games. So I'll talk about it when I recap that series more in details. But Toronto, great job. I had a feeling like everybody loved to make the jokes, but I had a feeling this was their year. Like I said before, no team with 4 superstar level players have never made the semifinals, so the conference finals. So it was just an anomaly. It was just a matter of time. Samsonov did the job. All they need is competent goalies, and that's what Samsonov did. And then Dallas, not surprised. Carolina was a toss-up. You know, Sorokin came to play, but when you don't have a difference maker, what can you do? You know, you can't get the goal you need, and Aho came up to play. Even Boston in defeat, Bertuzzi just got himself a few extra $1 million because 5 goals. We didn't know what he was. Timo Myers, we didn't know what he was. New Jersey won, but Timo Myers was playing with Miles Wood, for God's sakes. No goals. And Bertuzzi, 5 goals. So you never know. And this is where I did not understand some of these GMs going in the playoffs, why they didn't go after Josh Anderson more pressing, because Josh Anderson proved 2 years ago he was a playoff performer. Now people know Bertuzzi is a playoff performer, but they know Myers, unless he has a great second round and beyond, he's got to turn it on because he's not getting $10 million a year playing like this. So, you know, it's playoff hockey. There's a reason why the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win in professional sports. Anything can switch on a dime, and New Jersey was not winning until they went to the rookie. Akira won that series for them. They put in him instead of Vanacek.
And we talked about in the last episode, we said that, you know, every playoffs, there's always a big upset. A team that loses that you don't expect it. None of us expected really Boston to lose. We all picked Boston, and they were the team. No, Ryan?
I picked the Panthers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You and Eric both went with the Panthers. My mistake. Yeah, but I think the hockey world.
No, the experts had Boston, and I think Seattle's a bigger upset, even though they always go with the point difference, blah, blah, blah. But to me, Seattle's a bigger upset versus the Avalanche.
Yeah, we were talking before the show.
Second year in the league.
So the old adage is you're as bad as your worst player, and if Seattle has a bunch of second and third liners on their team, how bad are they really when the Avs have to roll out a proper fourth line?
Yeah.
And
Seattle is like the Islanders, but that can score. The forward group and the Islanders, they're great at defense or hitting, but they don't score. Seattle is fast, tenacious, but they score. So that's the big difference between those two teams.
All right. Well, let's break down. Okay, go ahead. Finish your thought, Frank.
Yeah. Seattle was top 5, I think, in the league in scoring goals this year, with no number 1 line per se, because Beniers is not there yet. So, like Ryan said, Second line is deficient versus the first line of Colorado. Then the second line is equal, but then the second line is above the third line, and then the third line is above the fourth line, and they get you. They get you. It's crazy. So
plus Frank, they had Jordan Eberle. Come on.
Well, all right. Jordan Eberle, Adam Larson, you got half the freaking team made up of ex-Oilers.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's
come in here. You know what? Ever since Vegas went in their first year to the Stanley Cup final, I don't think expansion teams, for me anyway, expansion teams don't surprise me when they do well, right? Seattle, you're right, Frank. Seattle wasn't anything last year, and then suddenly they became something. But when I look at, and I know that you said that points don't matter. Well, there were 9 points between Seattle and Colorado. Colorado was a different kind of team this year. So I thought it was possible. Now, I didn't pick Seattle because I didn't think it was that possible. But, and the Florida pick, I'll be brutally honest, when I picked Florida, that was a hope, right? Because, the Leafs play in Boston frightens me, and that's why Leaf fans were chanting Florida, Florida. And they may, be careful what you wish for. That could always come back too. But so I guess what I was going to say is I think that the Boston one, to me, as a guy who was alive in '77 and watching hockey and remembers that Canadiens team, that to me is still the greatest team. This, Boston's smashing records and so on and so forth. This is a bigger upset for me because I really thought Boston would roll over Florida. Seattle, I thought, was tenacious. They pushed the Oilers for a big chunk. So I'm going to respectfully say that the Boston, and I'll just call it what it is because it makes a Leaf fan happy, choke, was monumental. And I know when we're hearing things about injuries and so on in Bergeron's class. I'll never say anything against Bergeron, but yeah.
You got your number one goalie who's hurt, and they kept playing him when they should have eventually stopped. Their first two centers are out for the first 4 games. Bergeron comes back, he's down 100%, and then Krejci, he goes in the 7th game because he goes, okay, I'm going to go, but he's not healthy. So to me, you can't call that a bigger upset. Colorado had a shitty first half, but if you go from January on, they were one of the best teams in the league, and that's why they went up in the standings, a little bit like the Oilers, a little bit like Vegas. They all had great second halves, and I don't know. The
thing with Boston is they were up 3-1. They just had to in the next
3-1. That's a choke.
Yeah, but then they Florida changed goalies, and that New Jersey changed goalies. That changed the series. Florida changed, and Bobrovsky wasn't that great, but he just made the timely saves. Where Lyon is a 31-year-old rookie. But the other thing I wanted to say about the playoffs is the revenge of the ex-goalies, because Grubauer beat his old team, Brossoit beat his old team.
Well, hopefully he doesn't beat his other old team.
Huh? What?
Hopefully he doesn't beat his other old team, Brossoit.
Playing Edmonton.
Started out in the Oilers organization.
That's right. He started in the Oilers. He went to wouldn't that be something? He's going to run out of old teams.
Ryan, wasn't he an Edmonton Oil King as well? Didn't he play for the?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was an okay backup, but he never really moved the needle in his time here, and that's why we gave up on him. But like every other freaking player we give up on, he goes somewhere and makes a little bit more something of himself.
All right, well, let's start breaking down the 3 Canadian teams in that first round. We're going to start with Eric and the Leafs and the Lightning. Eric followed this series very closely, obviously, as a Leaf fan, enjoyed every minute of it. And first couple of games, Eric. Well, the fact that they're in the playoffs, I would assume you enjoyed every minute of it, Eric.
Well,
So
no, there were times that, for sure. So when we take a look at the game, certainly the first game, I expected a lot more memes and nasties, actually, and I appreciate the panel did not do that because man, that first game, the Leafs looked awful. They looked, they had a horrible game, and I thought, here we go again. It looked really bad. Corey Perry, who really at the beginning of the series was in it and then suddenly disappeared, and really wasn't in it the last part. And I'm analytical enough to know, but I know that he's a pain in the. He's that kind of player, and certainly the Leafs experienced him when he played for Montreal, and took the Leafs out that year. So anyway, the first game was very, very tough. I rather than go game for game, because let's be honest, all of Canada watched this, for heaven's sake, I'm sure. I'll just say that in the end, I was glad that Samsonov, there were so many factors that were questionable. Vasilevsky was never going to be questionable, but Samsonov was, and he came through. I think he played an excellent game 6. I think he's a big part of why it ended there. Obviously, the 2 overtimes where the Leafs came back and they looked like they were out were huge as well. And the main players did step up. You look at the points, and from Riley to Matthews, Marner. I will say I am concerned, certainly about Nylander, because I think he showed some selfish stuff throughout, and that was kind of highlighted.
Still got 7 and 7.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I just don't. The other guys, Matthews, I think he hasn't proven anything yet, and I'm not saying that he has. I think that would be. I'd sound a little bit too Leaf fanny to do that, but at the same time, I think he stepped up more than he has in the past, and he made his presence known, and it looks like he's kind of ready for this. O'Reilly was important, as well. I think, but Achari was huge too. So those trade deadline acquisitions were very big, and I think a reason that pushed them over the top here as well. And I don't think they would have been pushed over the top without him. Easily, I can say that. So that was a great team. They deserve respect, but obviously I was glad. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I have to ask you, because you're a big Leafs fan, but with all the recent collapses of the Leafs in the playoffs in the first round, were you nervous at all? Were you a little bit, here we go again when we go to overtime? The Leafs did have a kind of a game buffer because they could have went to a game 7 if they lost game 6. But
you know what, the game 5 was a concern for sure. I'd be a liar if I told you it wasn't, because the Leafs were up 3-1 on Montreal as well, and we're up 3-1. Who cares, right? And had home ice advantage as well, and that's what it reminded me of. And of course, last year wasn't that long ago, and they were up on Tampa again. So was I concerned? Yeah, for sure. Right. I thought, but I also thought to myself, damn it, it's got to end sometime. Like, seriously. Now I've seen lots of memes, and it's like the death of the Leaf joke, and hockey fans all over the world are sad because they can't make that joke anymore. But don't worry, it's the Leafs. They'll give you a lot of other things to make a joke about, I'm sure. So there you go.
Ryan or Frank, any comments before we move on to the next series about the Leafs Tampa?
I must say that I'm well, I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised because I can't stand the guy, but Matthews decided to actually show up for a series, it seemed like, and pitched in when it counted. He opened up the scoring in Game 6, and obviously we all know how Game 6 turned out. So, I mean, at least we're never going to get over the hump without that guy actually stepping up in a playoff series, and he actually stepped up.
Okay. And I don't know if... Yeah, go
goals. 5 goals is money. You know, JT with his $11 million contract, 4 goals, money. Morgan Riley waking up because he didn't have the best season. He played like the 72-point defenseman of 2, 3, 4 years ago. So, yeah, so far, so good, especially against Vasilevsky, supposedly one of the top 3 goalies. He just didn't have it, so it happens. But, yeah, impressive so far. You know, Marner, 11 points in 7 games. Crazy. So, yeah, that meme is so stupid because it's not a choke job from Boston.
I love it. I love it.
When you're gonna get the surgery news, you're gonna say, "Oh, well, maybe they were injured." You know, look at Minnesota. Erickson, whatever the hell you say. Like, he had a broken fibula he tried to play on. You know, so it's like, come on.
All right. Next on to Ryan to do a little bit of analysis here with the Edmonton Oilers, who took on the Los Angeles Kings. And again, as an Oiler fan, I get nervous just like Eric did. Here we go again kind of situation with some possible injuries to the team and thinking, wow, are they going to blow this series against LA? But Ryan, let's take a look at the Edmonton Oilers versus Los Angeles. It up on the screen here. All right, the show is yours. What do you got to say about this series?
Certainly, after the first period in Game 4, I thought it was all over. I thought the season was done. This is it. We're not coming back from 3-1 down. But we turned it on and beat them and never looked back and closed out the series in as many games as we needed. I will say, though, I saw an interesting stat on the Oilers. In the last 24 games, they've gone 21-0-3. So I mean,
the league?
So what?
In the league or against LA? Like what?
From like the last 24 games the Oilers have played in the regular season and playoffs, they've gone 21-0-3. So they're here to play. They're lighting it up at the right time. I would say, if you look at the stats, obviously you have McDavid and Draisaitl leading the way with 11 and 10 points. But then you have an unfamiliar face up there in Evan Bouchard. Is this his coming out party? Is this him turning slowly into the defenseman that we've been waiting for? Jury's still out on that. Let's see if he can continue it on throughout the playoffs and into next season. But that guy with 10 points, matching Draisaitl, is and it helps if you're on a lethal power play like what he is. Oilers at 56% on the power play. You can't really go wrong with that. Just ridiculous numbers. But that Ekholm trade is looking better and better every day with calming down Nurse a little bit and just the uptick in getting. I mean, yeah, he's calming down Bouchard, but we also got Barry out of the way to allow Bouchard to flourish as maybe not like a Burns-Carlson type thing, but along the same lines, not to that full extent of getting the guy out of the way so the other guy can flourish. It's going to be interesting. Everybody, like Yamamoto and Costin, they brought home the game in Game 6, and they were the fourth line wingers that game. So everybody's pitching in all over the lineup, at least in the last few games. So it's going to be fun to watch. We go out against Vegas. Vegas plays the Edmonton Oilers game, but Edmonton plays it better, so it should be fun to watch.
I have to agree. The comeback against LA in Game 4, that to me was the series turning point. Down 3-0 in LA, and they were able to come back and win that game. I think if they lose that game, they're down 3-1, and
Well, and even getting some confidence in Campbell. He came in that game, played the last 2 periods, and only let one shot or 1 goal in, and was a solid force back there. He played how you have to play.
And Frank and I have been, we talk fantasy hockey, and we talk back and forth about Yamamoto and is he a bust? And he's not really doing anything for Edmonton. For him to get the series-winning goal in the last game, again, stepping up. Will it carry over? Is this going to be the boost that he needs to be a regular player? Who knows?
How about that nothing trade back in September of Samorukov being traded for Kostin, and nobody here really knew who Kostin is, and he comes in, fan favorite instantly, and he scores 3 goals this series, including 2 in the game or in the series clinching game.
So Frank, I want to ask you, because we've talked off air about Evan Bouchard, and is he really a top 2 defenseman for Edmonton? Back in that draft, Edmonton took Bouchard a few picks ahead of Dobson. Do you think Edmonton made the right choice in Bouchard? Is it too early to tell? Who do you see as the better defenseman moving forward? Who's the better fit for the Edmonton Oilers?
Dobson is already good, man. He's got 50 points last year. A little bit of a down year, but up to now, it's the future part that I don't know, man. If this is the coming out party of Bouchard, then they did make the right pick. But Dobson is further along, and Dobson is producing without the best 2 players in the world. What would he have done with the Oilers? Well, he would have been good 3 years ago, and Barry never would have been an Oilers because they would not have gotten him after his season in Toronto, I think, or Nashville, whatever he go. No, he's in Nashville now, so he moves around so much. It's like that's what happens when you're a specialist. So that's still up in the air. Bouchard has the upper upside with the team he plays on, for sure. So we'll see what happens. But one thing I'll just give, because you're 3 Edmonton guys and all fanboying on your Oilers, but there's a few red flags here that I see. Nugent Hopkins, 100-point player, 4 points in that series. That's a red flag. Evander Kane, 4 points in that series. That's another red flag. They're not going to beat Vegas with 3 players.
We have the highest goals per game of any team in the first
round. You have 3 players.
But everybody was pitching in throughout the lineup. It wasn't just. I mean, we could sit and wait. Like Hyman scored the game-winning goal in Game 5.
All right, so look, you can fanboy all you want. I'm giving the red flags. That if
I wouldn't call them red flags yet.
If you think you can beat Vegas with 3 players scoring, I have news for you. Mark Stone is coming. You think Dano was a pain in the ass for McDavid? Well, Stone plays him stone cold. How many points did McDavid have against Vegas in his 4 games this year? Oh yeah, 0.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to see that stat.
Eric, how about your input on the LA series, Edmonton, LA, from your viewpoint?
Well, we knew it was going to be a tough series. I think LA's, there's only 5 points separating them. They were battling for second and third and actually for first for a big chunk of time. So we knew, I thought that offense would win out, and it did. Because LA is much more a defensive team, and I was glad for that. So generally, no, I think it kind of went the way I thought it would. I thought it would go 6 or 7. Actually, I think I predicted 5. To be brutally honest, I was really kind of drinking the Kool-Aid at the time, but as we have this new verb, fanboying, I guess. And I certainly was doing that, but at the end of the day, LA's coming, and they're a good team. I think it went well. I thought it was a tough series. I think it's a good series to win because the Oilers are a little grindier. They didn't come out with any super major injuries, although we're hearing something about McDavid. So I think they're, like Frank says, where was the Nuge? He disappeared. I
got a third red flag is Hyman because.
And Hyman didn't show up until that Game 5 overtime, right?
Yeah.
And then he played well, and so yeah, there are some things, and I agree with we need some kind of objective opinion, and we have to get that from the East, and that's okay because it's true. What about that? These guys
did just fine against.
If you're going to go to where we all want the Oilers to go, you do have to address those things. Those guys have to show up, or else there will be a bit of a problem. So
McDavid did get 7 points against Vegas this year. I just wanted to clarify that.
There you go.
So, because somebody said was it against LA? Then it's one of the two teams they said that he didn't produce. So, all right, I stand corrected. I couldn't remember the tweet. So, anyways,
and I think,
but yeah, there you go.
I think Edmonton. I mean, LA's a lot more defensive team than Los Angeles, and I think they were tougher opposition. I think they're going to have a little bit more flowing with the scoring and a little bit more contributions from some of the other players that were, locked up a little bit more against a really tough and well-coached LA team.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Frank. I think we're going to cover the Winnipeg series. I don't know. Did you catch most of the games, Frank, with Winnipeg Vegas?
Yeah, I tried to watch all of the Canadian teams, and I stayed up late. So Winnipeg is pretty straightforward. They ran Hellebuck into the ground. They made the playoffs the 81st game. So he was in nets 13 games in a row. And you see his stats, his goals against average is 3.43, I think, for the series. His save percentage is 88%. Brossoit, 2.4 over 916, I think. So, look, Winnipeg came in. They were playing it's like Florida, except Vegas, instead of having injuries, they got Mark Stone back. Took him his first game to get his feet wet, and then Mark Stone dominated the series. I think he got 8 points in the 4 games after game 1. Let me go see the stats. Yeah, 8 points. Chandler Stevenson, 8 points. So he didn't have any points the first game. Winnipeg won 5-1. So it's like they got a trade deadline acquisition there first. They Kucherov'd themselves, Mark Stone, with the cap and all that. Winnipeg just didn't have enough left in the tank. It happens. Kudos to them. They made the playoffs. But what was fascinating was the interview with the coach after the series.
Yeah, we'll get to that part a little bit later, Frank.
All right. So Vegas was the best team in the West. They finished first, and it showed against Winnipeg. They have a good first line, a good second line, a good third line. Even their fourth line unheralded, but Barbashev was on the fourth line of Madio. They have 4. Brett Howden, 4 points, and 3 points for Barbashev. It's like, all right, man. They're very deep. It's going to be very interesting. Is Brossoit going to continue his? Because Aiden Hill, he's back. He's healthy, and they're not putting him in. So we'll see what happens with Skinner versus Brossoit. Skinner, you don't look at his stats because, there was a couple of blowout games there. So it's like, whatever. But, it's going to be interesting because it's when Seguin played against Taylor Hall. Well, this is Eichel versus McDavid. So that's going to be interesting because it's number 1 pick against number 2. And Eichel is doing okay, 5 points. So at least he's not like disappointing, but he needs to be better than he has been. So he needs to be more of a point per game. But Vegas Edmonton is going to be fascinating. If Edmonton can beat Vegas, I think we're going to have a Canadian team in the finals.
Or two, maybe. And I think what Ryan said earlier about that pivotal game against Los Angeles, coming back from a 3-0 lead, what could have been, because Winnipeg was in a similar situation in game, I believe it was game 4, either game 3 or 4, but they were down 3 goals. They scored 3 goals in the third period, and then they went to not just 1 overtime, but 2 overtimes. And I think if Winnipeg could have won
Look who scored.
It was
Mario with the pass from Barbashev. Those are deep players on the thing. They're 4th line players there. So it's like, wow. So I don't know.
But just that one game, if Edmonton or if Winnipeg could have won that on home ice, I'm just wondering if they could have carried the momentum a little bit further into the next game and maybe at least at the bare minimum extend the series to a game 6 or 7. I think that was just.
Pionk did well. He had over a point per game. Wheeler 6 points. Lowry 5 points. But like Connor 4 points. We're starting to get disappointing. And
didn't Josh Morrissey get injured in that game and then was out the rest of the series?
Yeah, Josh Morrissey has one point, and I don't think he played that much. And that's what happens when you have injuries. It happens in the playoffs. But Hellebuck with 3.44 GAA and save percentage of 8.86. It's not that he's bad. He just had no more gas. And some of these top players, like Kyle Connor, 4 points, it's unforgivable. It's like you have to be the number 1 seed. You have to bring it, It's like, so, yeah, it happens. It is what it is. Pionk replaced Morrissey, so you can't say, oh, they didn't have a defenseman, because Pionk, before Morrissey's breakout season, he broke out from the Rangers. So it's just, I know, I can't talk about the coach, but
Well, and we're going to transition into that. And I want to start with Eric on this one. Longtime hockey fan, longtime sports fan. This was a really odd situation. Usually we don't get, sometimes a player will call out a coach from time to time, but to have a group of players all call out a coach in kind of this press conference is really unheard of in the NHL. So what is your take on Bowness's calling out of the players and then the players calling out the coach?
Well, my take is I think his future in Winnipeg is suspect. I'll be honest with you. I think,
they confirmed he was coming back today.
Yeah, well, there you go. So you can come back, but at the same time, what's the room going to be like? And these are professionals. These are, so these aren't kids. They are professionals. Blake Wheeler, who probably isn't going to be there next year.
That's what I was going to say. Most of the room's going to be gone.
It'll be a different.
There's a certain parallel you could draw down to the southern Alberta city that's having
for sure
admitted their issue.
And I just think it was wrong. I don't think it was. He was emotional. I understand emotion. I'm a Leaf fan, for God's sake. I know how to cry, but at the same time, you do it in the room. You wanna say your shit. Go ahead. Do it in the room, and then come out and be a professional. And I thought it was very unprofessional. I thought it was wrong. And I mean, they were a wild card team. Right? I don't think that the Jets were horrible. I think they were relying on a good goaltender. I realized they had a great first part of the season, and then they kind of fell apart to become that wild card team. They were battling for first for a big chunk of it, I think, into January. But I just think it was wrong, and I feel for them. I really do. Because at the bottom line, you go with the favorites. I'm quite sure Vegas was the odds-on favorites to win. Yeah, 5 games is not very much, but I didn't think people really, I didn't see too many people quitting. They had some bad injuries, things along those lines. So do I like it? Hate it? I think it was wrong. And I think he's going to have a tough time. Great that they're bringing him back, showing the faith. I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but I think it could be difficult. So there you go.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we're going to see a big shakeup in the personnel of the Winnipeg players. And if Hellebuck wants out and he demands to be traded, the team that gets him is going to be a lot better with Connor Hellebuck. Frank, anything to add to the bonus situation?
Yeah, dick move. I won't be polite about it. Bonus is a dickhead. I said it. Don't edit that out. Last year, there was this rookie that came up to Dallas near his hometown or in his hometown. And they get a per diem when you play the AHL. If you get called up, you get an NHL salary for one day. So he blew all of his NHL per diem to buy tickets for his friends. And he borrowed from his teammates to get like 200 tickets for his friends and family. And Bonus never told the kid that he wasn't playing that day. He found out looking at the sheet that they put up of the lines of who's starting and all that. So he's a dickhead. So it was a dickhead move by a dickhead coach. And Cheval Dayoff doesn't have any cojones. Should have fired his ass just for that. And I know he doesn't care because he's going to change. That leadership group has to, well, it's not a leadership group. That's an insult to leadership groups. It has to change. They're not winners. There's something poisonous in that room. And they're going to have to make a bunch of changes, and they will. But they should have not have brought him back. He didn't throw his players under the bus. He threw them under a semi-Mack truck, So I agree with Eric. Hated it.
All right. Well, Ryan, let's go a little further south of Edmonton. Similar situation in Calgary, except instead of keeping the coach, they let go of the coach. So I believe it was today or yesterday, Daryl Sutter relieved of his duties, which caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of people didn't expect that because he did have a few years, I believe, left on his contract. So he is still going to get
he just signed a 2-year extension.
2-year extension. $8.6 million.
I got money.
Yeah, he's got money. So, Ryan, a little bit of your take on Sutter's removal from Calgary.
Well, all you heard was how this guy was untouchable. He's going to stick around. The new GM is going to have to learn how to play nice with this guy. The last GM left probably because of this guy, most likely because of this guy, and not being able to, I want to say control him, but work with him. I think the whole organization was caught off guard by how much power this guy tried to seize. He kind of walked around there like he ran the whole organization. I mean, you can see it in his post-game conferences. It was just the guy was an ass.
Come on, say it.
He's not a coach for this NHL anymore. He won his cups. I mean, obviously he didn't care if he won any more because the way he was acting in Calgary. The guy just, I mean, I heard on the exit interviews 6 or so players were saying if he's still here in the springtime or fall time, they're going to be requesting trades. They probably lost their. Well, they definitely lost Kachuk because of it. They lost Goudreau because of it. Nobody wanted to play. Like, I mean, you had the few. Toffoli, I heard, like this guy. Lucic obviously liked this guy. But the guy just corrupted the room. Like, there was. He tore down that organization. I mean, why? I don't know. But they got a lot of patching and repairing to do before I think they're ever good again.
Yeah, he was GM for 8 years, from 2002 to December 2010. So that's why he was acting like he owned the place, because he used to run everything. So,
but what they would never be able to hire a GM, or at least a good GM, to take that team over if he was still around, because he'd be running it from the bottom up.
Yep. And we've said it in past podcasts, the comment he made on Huberdeau about taking a shit. The room,
or that rookie in his first game pulled out the stats.
And then he goes, who? And then what he did to Peltier, and it's like, no, that's a dick move. That's a Mike Keenan dick move.
I heard today that he wouldn't allow the team to celebrate victories, and every time they lost, it was just unbearable. Like there was I heard from not from the agents directly, but I heard that agents around the league were told by the players, don't even entertain them with contract offers. Like nobody, Calgary was blacklisted around the league for new players coming in, new talent coming in because of this guy.
Yep. So I'm glad they did it, because Calgary's a co-ownership. There's ownership group, right? Like Winnipeg. So they're stingy on the dollars, right? Or did the ownership change?
Well, one of the co-owners in Winnipeg is the richest guy in the league.
Yeah, I know, but they're all ownership groups, so usually they run with tight budgets. So I don't know if Calgary, the ownership changed or not, but that's why they didn't think they would eat that contract for almost 4-point-something million. But I'm glad they did it.
They $8.6 million he walked out with, and he's out the coaching end.
Yeah. So, and to me, it's like, and you pointed it to Ryan, he's not a coach for the modern NHL. He's just not. And I mentioned it before. Huberdeau is East-West player. Why force him playing North-South? And for those watching, North-South is you dump the puck, you forecheck, you get the puck, you throw it to a defenseman, shoots it at the goal, you try to get a tip in or whatever, a rebound. That's North-South. You go from one side to the right in a straight line towards the other. East-West is more the talented player. You know, they'll probably go into the zone controlling the puck, and then they'll weave it. So there you have your defenseman. Everybody moves around. North-South is more static. So Huberdeau is an East-West player. Kadri is an instinct player. These are not North-South players. And you can have one line playing North-South because you don't have your fourth line playing East-West. That's a recipe for disaster. They have no hands, etc. But why was he so pig-headed in getting Huberdeau 65 points? Because you're playing my system. It's my system. That's it. That's all. Why did his point production go way down? Kadri from almost 100 points down to what?
Yeah,
70?
Nothing.
Uyghur, great season. He did better at the end of the year, but like all these guys came from different teams and their point production went down. And like Backlund is on his last year. Elias Lindholm was in his last year. Those two were not going to re-sign in Calgary if Sutter was sticking around.
Well, they still might not if the relationship was damaged enough.
Exactly. And Backlund, like I said, 35 years old, might not. But Elias, they have to repair that relationship big time because they're in big trouble. And it just so happened that today they fire Sutter, and magically Shillington is coming back. He had a breakout season last year as a defenseman, and he's also he's not a north side. He likes to control the puck. So magically his personal issues are resolved on the same day Sutter gets fired. So that's good news for the Calgary defenseman because Shillington is a top 4 defenseman. So that's going to be good for them next year. But he's going to play on the same day Sutter gets fired.
Truly did a masterful job digging themselves out of an almost no-win situation with Tkachuk saying "trade me."
Yeah,
and then Sutter takes these new toys and throws them out and plays with the box.
Yeah, but like I said in our chat, he had Ferraris, but he was using it to go get the groceries.
Yeah.
And it's interesting on this as well. Like Pat Quinn came and he coached the Oilers, and at that time it was pretty clear that Pat Quinn He was an old coach, and it was near the end of where his effectiveness. And Ken Hitchcock also came and coached the Oilers for a while, and he hasn't been back since. I really think that coaches too, just like players, they kind of they get older, and I'm surprised actually that we have some that stick around, but I wasn't surprised at Sutter. He really, his success was close to 15 years ago, not 10, I guess, because when he won in LA, I think it was 2012.
2012 and 2014, he won the
but I think it's it's a different kind of kettle of fish, and I think I think it was seen as that one thing about, I don't know, he went to take a shit or whatever, and everybody kind of giggles and laughs. Some people do. And it's good to have that kind of rough cowboy guy talking about working on the farm in Calgary, but it didn't work really. At the end of the day, for these players, it doesn't work. And I wasn't surprised. I think Calgary's better off without him. I would be surprised if he gets picked up again. I think he might go the Quinn route, just like Quinn. He never coached again, really. I think that'll be the same thing. I don't think Sutter will. I think his time is done.
Keenan tried to come back. He never came back. Mark Crawford, assistant coach in Dallas, was rumored to be hired in Montreal. Thank God we dodged that bullet. But he's another one of these old school coaches that never got his foot back in the door. And thank God.
A little bit of a sidetrack here, but do you think Babcock's ever going to come back?
No, I don't.
I hope not. But some idiot GM, old school GM, might give him another shot.
Well, he's coaching in Saskatchewan in the minors right now, just for shits and giggles.
Well, I think great analysis.
The way he treated Marner it's the same as what Sutter did with Pelche. It's unforgivable. He doesn't belong with unless it's a team that's 100%. Players over 30, he doesn't belong behind the bench anymore. Sorry, he doesn't.
Frank, who's the New Jersey coach? Who's coaching Jersey?
Lindy Ruff.
Ruff. Oh, okay.
He's old. He's an old coach.
Yeah,
he adapted to. It's like when Tortorella seems reasonable in adapting to the new NHL, and he's not reasonable, but he's reasonable compared to the Sutters of the world and the Keenans of the world, because Tort only wants you to give 100% effort all the time. That's why he's a badass, But players can produce under Tort. These guys, it's all defense first, no creativity. Like Kadri's, he was freaking out this year. Because I play instinct. I make decisions right on the spot. But he wasn't allowed to do that because, when you reach this point, you dump it and you go get it. And it's like you handcuff, it's like having a thoroughbred that won the Preakness and putting him behind, I think, to get the hay to the barn,
A wagon?
Wagon. That's what I was looking. I had the name in French. It's late here, eh? My brain is. So it's like you hitch a thoroughbred to your wagon. And that was the biggest problem in Calgary. You saw the stats 56 points for Huberdeau. And Kadri had less than 60, and Kadri had 90, almost 100 last year. So it's like good riddance. He'll go back to his farm. He's going to be happy. He's old enough. I don't think he will want to come back. He did it because Calgary was in his heart.
Well, would anybody want him?
The other thing I want to say about Calgary, and they don't mind paying his 2-year salary, right? Because his contract doesn't kick in until July. So Calgary can afford it, of course, because they don't have to pay for a new arena. Just thought I'd add that. Thanks.
There you go. Well, great analysis, guys, with Calgary. I think we would all agree that a little bit of a shock that Calgary didn't make the playoffs this year, and with a new coach and maybe a younger coach that embraces the players a little bit more, we should see them back in the playoffs next year. They should make a big rebound with the right coach. And Frank, I know
it depends on how much damage was done. That's all it depends on.
True. Yeah, true. But I think this is a good showing to the players. I mean, you sign a guy for almost $9 million and you dump him. I think the players should go, hey, okay, the management is on our side by getting rid of this guy. So I think that is a sign of good faith for the players.
Oh, no,
right,
I think it's going to be water under the bridge, Ryan, for the players. They got what they wanted, unless they hire another a-hole coach, but I don't think they will.
Here comes Babcock.
Dallas Eakins is available. Dallas Eakins is out there.
Oh, hell no. That guy's a disaster.
Don Maloney is the interim GM. So what they're going to do, they're going to start at the top. So they're going to get the new GM who's going to pick his coach. And when they pick the GM, they'll probably do it before the draft, at least a month. So that's going to go quickly. And that will tell you what kind of coach, if it's a new GM or a recycled, like Edmonton love to do. We mentioned the two coaches Eric mentioned, but Chiarelli, recycled GM. It's like if they don't recycle a GM and they get like Mathieu Darche is in Tampa, assistant GM. He made a few finals for interviews. Montreal made the finals before they hired Kent Hughes and Gordon. But he made the finals elsewhere. They had another opening. So if like Darche comes into Calgary, watch out, you Oilers fanboys, because Calgary's going to be back.
Okay, well, we come to that time in the show where we're going to make our predictions now for round number 2. And we're going to go from worst myself to the best. So I picked 2 out of 8. So basically I could get a monkey just to randomly point at things and probably do a better job. Toronto, Florida. I am on the Toronto bandwagon now. I do think, if they can somehow contain Tkachuk, they will win this series. I think it will go 6 games. So I am going with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Carolina jersey's interesting. New Jersey's playing really well defensively. Still a young team. Carolina has a little bit more experience. Rob Brindamore, been there, won the cup as the captain of the Hurricane. I'm going with the Hurricane in 5 in that one. A little bit more rest, too, for the Hurricane. Dallas, Seattle, I just can't stay on the Seattle bandwagon. I don't think they can. I think their victory was round 1, beating Colorado. They're on a high. I think they're going to face reality, facing a good Dallas team. And Ottinger, put my money on him. And Vegas, Oilers, I think Oilers, the layoff might hurt them for game 1 a little bit. But I do think they take this. It's going to be a long series. I'm saying it's going 7. Edmonton in 7. So those are my 4 picks. I think the 2 Canadian teams are going to advance to the Final 4. Of course, I picked Boston, Colorado in the final. I'm not picking the Stanley Cup finalists here, just these 4 teams. All right, let's move on to Frank. You had the next least. You had 3 in the first round, 1 better than myself. Who are you seeing in the East and then the West?
I'll mess you up with my orders, so I'm going to go with the one I have the most confidence in, which is Dallas over Seattle. Seattle, kudos to them. Outperform expectations the whole year. To beat Colorado, awesome. But Ottinger is going to do the job. Avalanche learned a hard lesson. They had Grubauer. They didn't win the cup. They threw it to the curb, got Kuemper, won the cup, threw into the curb. Got Georgiev, and, at some point you need a goalie, and I think that's what killed them. So Dallas over Seattle. Carolina, New Jersey. So the interesting is, in the East, you had New Rangers that went through these hard lessons in the playoffs, and Carolina did the same thing. And then New Jersey's the newest team. So, like, New York is the most experienced, Carolina's here, and then New Jersey here. New Jersey just took out the most experienced team that was supposed to go far. That's tough, man. you know, you have goalies that are hot, man, and when they stay hot, if Kira stays hot, Anderson was hurt, came back at the end, did awesome. That's a tough series, man. No, I'm gonna go. There's always upsets. So my upset for this round is gonna be New Jersey. Can't do worse than the first round.
That's right.
So Toronto against Florida. I need Toronto to win because Habs need the 17th pick. Because if Florida wins, we go down to the 29th. And if they make the finals to the 31st, and if they win the 32nd pick, that's going to suck for us. So for once, I'm going to be cheering for Toronto, and I will pick them because if I don't and they don't win, I'll feel that I contributed to Montreal getting shafted in the draft. And by the way, by Florida beating Boston, the Maple Leafs went up 4 picks in the draft from their Sandin trade. So that was awesome for Eric and all the Toronto fans out there. And the last one, man. Woo! Okay. What the hell is this is gonna be a run and gun playoff series. We mentioned it earlier tonight, that this is not gonna be a defensive series like LA. This is gonna be run and gun, man. Who's gonna score the most goals? Gonna be 80s hockey. So who's gonna prevail? I think the Oilers are gonna prevail. So I also have 2 Canadian teams out of 4 in the semifinals. Make me proud, Oilers, because don't want the Leafs. I hate Boston. I'm happy they're gone. Now, I need Toronto to win. So if it happens that they make the finals against the Edmonton needs to take out the Leafs. Leaf fans are insufferable with a first-round victory for the first time in 19 years. Imagine them with a Stanley Cup. Oh, my God. The history of the NHL will be rewritten. You know, the best franchise in the world will be Toronto.
Oh. Well, let's go to the Toronto fanboy and let's find out the picks for the next round. Of course, Eric, at the beginning of last episode, he predicted a Toronto-Edmonton final. So he is still on pace to make that happen. Eric, give us your picks for round 2.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so I'll start with probably the one I care the least about. And I think, so we'll go New Jersey, Carolina. I truly think, you know what, I've underestimated Carolina at times, and they just win. I don't know how sometimes. I don't think their goaltending's that great, but they win. And so, without any further ado, Rod the Bod will take his team to that next level. And so, so let's go. New Jersey will be out. Obviously, you know, it's very exciting. The Florida, it won't be easy. Like I said, you know, Leaf fans wanted Florida because it seemed it's easier than Boston. And then you got to remember that Florida took Boston out. I think it's going to be a tough series. But they also played Tampa, and Tampa was a good warm-up for Florida. I think it'll be a little bit more wide open. So Toronto is going to overcome Florida.
Rod the Bod against Captain Underpants.
That's right. That's right. Seattle, you know what? Dallas is kind of the dark horse, if you want to know the truth. If I had to, you know, do some money and say who's going to win the Stanley Cup, Dallas, they've got goaltending. They've played very well. They handled Minnesota quite easily, I think. So you know, it was lovely, Seattle. Good on you, but we'll see you. And of course, the last one, and the one that I care, I've got 1 and 1A, and this is, I guess, my 1A. I think the Oilers are better, and as long as they stay healthy, again, anybody gets injured, as Frank pointed out, you need that scoring. They have had some depth stuff, I agree, but at the same time, stay as healthy as you can. I'm going to go Oil. So my prediction for Stanley Cup final, dream is still going to happen. Dream and probably then a nightmare because I'll be walking around Edmonton with a Leafs jersey on, but that's okay. I'm willing to do that. So there you go.
Eric, we're either going to, Eric and I with the exact same picks in the second round. So we're either going to be dead on the money or we can't tease each other because no matter how things shake out, it's going to be the same.
Right.
All right, Ryan, last say to you, you had 4 out of 8 in the first round, which tied Eric with the most correct. You had, I believe, all of the East picks correct in that first round. What are you seeing in round 2?
You didn't have the East picks correct because you didn't pick the Leafs.
I was 2 and 2, 2 in the West and 2 in the East.
Oh, okay. Was it Eric that had no? Eric didn't get the Rangers, so no one got the East right. I know I got all the East wrong, which again, a dog throwing a ball down a set of stairs into a basket with these teams could have done better. Ryan.
Kraken Stars. I think it's the Stars to lose. I think they're built better. A little more.
Oh, you're not going to be the only one going against the green and picking Seattle.
No,
Eberle.
I think the magic is up.
Hall of Famer Eberle. You're a Hall of Famer. Come on.
Third overall
They
pick
don't
in
have
the redraft.
If they had Schultz, be over the top.
Okay.
So we're picking the Stars to go.
Is Schultz hurt? He's playing.
Yeah, I don't. He's
in
probably
Seattle.
Playing. Yeah.
Oh.
He's in Seattle.
I never even knew where he was playing.
Yeah,
You just goofed. Glenn, he just said it would be a different story if they had Schultz. So now you have to change this.
Yeah, now he has to take Seattle.
Yeah, you got to go Seattle now. We're recording that as Seattle.
And watch Seattle win. We're all going to look like fools.
I'll change my notes.
How did he do in the first round there in the playoffs? Let's see. Let's see how the
they're in the second round,
did.
so obviously not bad.
5 points.
Holy moly. He's actually contributing. Wow.
Eberle with 3.
I'm telling you, Oilers. What more do you want?
Adam Larson had a couple of assists.
I mean, we trade Barry to Nashville, and they almost make the damn playoffs. What more do you need?
All right, so you got Seattle because of your big mouth, and you're probably going to get the upset of the second
round. Next, I want to move to Canes and Devils. I think the Devils are that Cinderella story. Well, you can't really call them a Cinderella story because they never squeaked in. They're just the new kid on the block.
Yeah,
I think the Devils are going to get past the Canes. The Canes, I don't know, they're weird. I mean, you don't hear about them for so long, and next thing you know, they're at the top of the NHL in some respect. I don't know, but I think the Devils are going to. It'll be a tight one, but I think the Devils are going to get by. Panthers and Leafs. Could they handle Tkachuk? I mean, Panthers last year were the President Trophy winners. I think it's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to be the tightest series of the bunch.
Come on, Ryan. You can do it. You can do it.
I can't
believe you want to. You want to pick Florida.
I can't pick the Leafs. I got to pick the Panthers. It's Leafs prove me wrong. Leafs prove me wrong.
And boy.
Anti-fanboy. I'll just make a prediction. Ryan's going to have the best record in the second round.
And Oilers in Vegas, like I've been saying this whole time, Vegas plays the Oilers game.
Vegas? You said Vegas? Okay. Vegas. You got Vegas to win. There we go.
I said Vegas plays the Oilers game, but the Oilers play it better. The season series against Vegas is 3-0-1. If that really contributes to anything in the playoffs, I don't know. I don't think so. But
Stone only played one game, by the way.
I think, but we won that game.
Yeah, but still.
I think this is the Oilers season or Oilers round to lose, so I want to pick the Oilers.
Hey,
that's not really surprising. And by the way, I just wanted to mention Oilers. We talked about the depth scoring, which they had with Costin, and we mentioned it. The problem is the second line scoring that they need to show up. If it doesn't show up, they're cooked. So they really need the second line. Like Nugent Hopkins had 100 points, man. It's like
they got to split up Draisaitl and McDavid again, but I think McDavid's playing with a little something. They're being very cagey on it, so
yeah. But
hopefully they're able to start this.
Is being the playoff warrior. I think you mentioned that in the previous before the playoffs. Like he's a warrior playing injured. I think Ryan, you said that in the previous podcast.
Yeah, he's built for
proving
the
it again. He's outscoring McDavid for God's sakes.
Yeah,
like what a playoff warrior Draisaitl is. Amazing.
And we talked about Bouchard. Bouchard with 10 points in that opening round, tied with McDavid.
7 goals in 6 games. We're saying, oh, this guy did well, point per game. Draisaitl has more than a goal per game. What a warrior, man. I think you're in the forest. You don't appreciate this guy. It's like he's great, but man, he's more than great.
I've said it for years. McDavid is the stronger regular season player, and Draisaitl's the stronger playoff player.
What a guy! Like he's +4, and McDavid is -1, and they played a lot of shifts together. Like, wow. Draisaitl was a force, and hopefully it continues. I know Oilers won 2 rounds last year, right?
Yep.
They made and Draisaitl played on one leg and he produced. So I have no worries about him producing. But man, what a guy. 7 goals in 6 games, man. Like what more can you say?
Eric, can you think of, watching all the hockey that you've had over the years, can you think of another combo similar to McDavid Draisaitl? I mean, we had Messier Gretzky and we have, all these duos, but anyone that come to mind when you think of these two players? Anyone you can relate them to?
Messier and Gretzky never played together, ever.
No,
Messier and Curry always played together, right?
Gretzky and Curry.
Gretzky and Curry, sorry.
Yeah.
So, Gretzky and Curry were always together. And probably that would be the closest, most recent. But
no.
But I want to think of, hang on. I want to think of the Canadiens teams from the 70s that I had to watch win over and over and over and over again, and it drove me nuts. And they were fantastic. So, Frank, you lived it. Give me somebody from Montreal that, like, the 2 combinations from that 76 to 80 era that you can think of.
That's the problem. Like, the number 1 C was Lemaire. And he was a 2-way player. He was not an offensive superstar. It was Shutt on left wing and Lafleur on the right wing. They each, I think, one season they each scored 60 goals. So we didn't have that 1-2 punch that was killer because Lemaire was the responsible guy defensively.
Yeah.
And back then, you had like production throughout the lineup. Yeah. It was the depth of the Habs, the D, Robinson, Lapointe. I think Langley was there. It's like, damn, man. It's like Lapointe was like the 4th defenseman, and he had 28 goals one year. Yeah. So it was. We didn't have the 1-2 punch. I think that the closest thing to it was Sid and Malkin.
Good point. Yeah,
at the beginning of their careers, they would play separate, and then when they needed to go together, separate. And I thought, because they're 36 and 35 now, I thought this would have been the point where Pittsburgh would have gotten a second line center and played the last few years of their career together. Gino and Malkin, because they played very well together. I think they're at a point now they can't carry line 1 and line 2 on their own anymore, and it would be beneficial for Pittsburgh to join that force on a permanent basis. See, we're looking Lafleur, 136 points.
What about the two players that Draisaitl and McDavid have been compared to all year long, and that's Jagr and Lemieux?
See, that's a good comparison, but Jagr was not a center. He was always a winger, so they played together. We're talking about two C's that play line 1, line 2, that can come up together for a goal when you need one. And that's Sid and Gino. Jagr and Lemieux were on the same line. Jagr was a winger. So it's very hard to get two dominant C's on one team. They have two clear-cut number one. You know, the two of the best players on the same team, and Gino and Malkin were in that conversation as center. Take away Ovechkin, who's a winger, as centers. They were the number 1 and number 2 centers in the NHL for maybe 10 years. Nobody came close to them. So that's the most, and the Habs didn't, and you go to the Islanders, they also didn't, because Trottier was also the grit to Bossy. You know, he was responsible. Bossy was the scorer, and you had Tonelli, I think, was the banger on that line. And then Philadelphia didn't. The Oilers, they had 1-2, Maciej Gretzky, but they never put them together because they didn't need to. Gretzky would have 200 points. They never needed a goal. You know?
What about in the Boston days with Phil Esposito? Who did he play? Who centered that line? You guys remember?
Well, Phil centered it, but
Phil centered. Who was it? I can't remember who was in Boston at that time. A little bit before our time, I guess.
Well, it was at 1970, around that era, right? Yeah. So,
maybe? I don't know. Let me go look. I'm gonna go look at his. He scored 76 with Boston or the Rangers?
Boston, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go see who was Phil Esposito.
And while you're doing that, Frank, let me just bring up which Montreal Canadian team, if you had to pick one from the 70s, was the best. I know it's tough because they were all good. They won cups. But is there one specific year that you just saw as the best team during that time period?
Fuck, I'm good. I said Johnny Busick, but Esposito was the center. Johnny Busick was the left winger. And I'm assuming Ken Hodge was the right winger. They all have 100 points with Bobby Orr. 400 points player. Okay, so to answer your question, the best team was the 8-loss team in 75-76, the first Stanley Cup. They lost 8 games that year. That was the best team. 75-76, your 1 year.
Okay.
And that was like untouchable.
Yeah.
That's not the one. That's maybe the year after then, because I saw 11 losses. It's the year they lost.
I think it was the 77 one. I think it was the year after. Yeah.
That one. 60 wins, 8 losses, 12 ties, 132 points. That record was untouchable until recently.
Yeah, but this one won the Stanley Cup. The other one will not. So these are the Kings, as far as I'm concerned. The other guys were pretenders. So to go back to Esposito, the second center I see listed here is Derek Sanderson, who played for Team Canada. So very potent player, but he 63 points, down from Phil's 152 points. Wow. So it's very hard to go get 2 C's like that. You know, like even Yzerman Fedorov. You know, Yzerman, when he did 150 points, Fedorov probably was close to 100, but they didn't play together. You know, it's like you go through all the teams that won the cups. You know, it's hard to get. You're lucky, Edmonton, to have what Pittsburgh has had. They're at the tail end, and hopefully you get to enjoy Draisaitl and McDavid into the
30s like Pittsburgh has, because it's special. It's a special thing to have, and the most challenging is to get your wingers, and that's why, like, when they got Kane, they got Hyman from Toronto. Finally, it started to gel on the wings, but it's got to gel in the playoffs too.
So yeah, just coming across this website, kind of impromptu, the 10 best hockey duos of all time. McDavid and Draisaitl.
Already number 10. Wow.
Right on the list. We've got Sakic and Forsberg.
Yep.
Another great 1-2. We've got Crosby and Malkin.
What about Horkoff and Hemsky?
What about Eberle and Cogliano? Lemieux, Yager, Bossy, Trottier, as Frank mentioned, Ted Lindsay and Gordie Howe,
Old school.
Maurice and Henry,
Two brothers.
Phil and Bobby. Well, Bobby wasn't a forward, but kind of played like one.
Yeah, but you had points like a forward, man.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah, Gretzky and Curry. Best combo. But I think I'm pretty sure that,
That's
give it a few
unfair.
more years.
Because Gretzky and Curry could have been one, but Gretzky and Glenn Anderson could have been a second one in the top 10. Like, Gretzky could have been with multiple players there in the top 10. So
Coffee could have been up there with Gretzky too. So
yeah,
it's like
exactly. Yeah, 48
All right,
goals.
well, let's end off with just very quick rapid fire with all the different teams. Quickly going through. So let's start with Toronto. Let's start with Eric. The biggest question mark going into the second round for Toronto. What do you see that as?
Oh God. The biggest question mark. Okay, biggest question mark is will the ones that need to show up show up? They did in the first round, but we need the four, as Frank has called them, to be the leaders. So will they show up? And kind of as a side note, Samsonov still do what he's doing. So yeah, goaltending, and will the real guys show up is the bottom line.
It's
when it gets tougher, they don't have that tenacity. I don't, they got Riley, but that's not enough in some way. Shen, but it's going to get tougher, and will they show? There you go.
All right, Frank, we'll get to you in a sec. We're going to do the fanboys first. Ryan, biggest question mark for Edmonton?
Skinner. I think it'd have to be Skinner. Obviously a rookie goalie. The floor could fall out from under him at any moment. Kind of like any other goalie, but he's unproven in these circumstances. So I would have to go with whether or not Skinner can keep the door shut at least long enough for the Oilers to outscore whatever he lets in.
He's got a Grand Fuhrer his way to the next round.
He doesn't have to make all the stops. He just has to make the right stop.
All right, and Frank, give us the non-fan boy perspective. Biggest question mark for Toronto and for Edmonton?
Samsonov, that's not even an issue. If they don't have goal, like Murray's the third goalie. He's back from his injury. He's healthy, but he's not even dressing. He's eating his popcorn, counting his 4-point-some odd million he's getting from Toronto. So it's all on Samsonov. So that's going to be the key. I'm with what they showed in round one. I'm not worried about the top 5 offensive guys in Toronto. The key to Edmonton is not Skinner, because Brossois is as unproven on the other side. It's really going to be secondary scoring, and usually secondary scoring we get to the 6-7 scorer, but for Edmonton it's third forward needs to score, second defenseman needs to score, so they need like a solid top 6 to contribute next round, not top 3. So like Kane hasn't played a lot of playoff hockey in his career. He was in Atlanta and San Jose. So he's a question mark in the playoffs. Hyman, he made his bones in Toronto, so yeah, okay. You know, he doesn't know how to win. And Nugent Hopkins was around when the Oilers sucked. So those three have to prove they can follow the lead of McDavid and Draisaitl. And that's where you're going to see if they have heart, because they have to produce in round 2 for the Oilers to win. I think they will, but that's the biggest question mark for me.
The depth scoring of, I'm just looking right now, the depth scoring of Vegas, you can argue, is showed up the exact same as, I mean, I guess they played one less game, but they weren't outstanding. It was
we didn't say the keys to Vegas. We said the keys to the Oilers.
No, I know. I'm just saying that when it comes to the depth scoring, Vegas relied more so on the Stars, and then the depth scoring, they chipped in a little bit.
Well, they have one guy at 8 points. That's it, right? Chandler?
2 guys at 8 points, Stone and Stevenson, and then it drops off to Carlson, Eichel, Pietrangelo.
And they only played 5 games too.
Yeah, well, that's the caveat.
Yeah.
All right, last one before we end off here, guys. We didn't have any sweeps in that first round. If you had to predict a sweep in round 2, who would it be? I'm going to say Carolina sweeps Jersey. What do you think, Frank?
There's always a sweep. That was my most surprising thing. I didn't mention it earlier, but I was shocked that it was 5 games. So for me, it will be Dallas, my guess for a sweep. There has to be a sweep somewhere in the playoffs, and hopefully it's not in the Stanley Cups. I think New Jersey swept Detroit when they won the Cup. That was so boring, man. It's like Detroit finally Heiserman makes it and gets swept. So I'll go Dallas.
Eric?
I agree with Frank. I'm going to go Dallas.
Dallas over Seattle. Okay. And Ryan?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, go ahead. Say Florida. Come on,
homeboy. Come on.
Let's say Jersey. Let's say Jersey. Come
Jersey.
Lion.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. All right. There you have it. And just to end off, I want to thank everyone that has left comments in our previous videos. Always good to see you guys and some of the comments that you leave. And let me just tell you right now that yes, Frank does have his shirt buttoned up. We can see that right now.
No, it's not buttoned up. That's how low it goes.
So thanks everyone to the comments that you've left. Great job. Go Leafs, go. Nice way to get ready for the playoffs. Made my night. Ryan can probably do a show just about the Oilers. Well, it would be very, very one-sided. Let's just say that with the Oilers.
The Tower of Pisa, it would be on the ground.
Nothing beats playoff hockey. Thanks for the video panel. Good presentation. Any Canadian champion will be a win. More episodes. Good for the road trip. Glad you're enjoying this on the road trip. Again, we don't have any side bets, not yet. And my favorite, Frank, button your shirt. So thank you guys for leaving the comments and for supporting the show. We will be back. I don't know when. Maybe at the end of round number 2. For sure, we plan on doing some things before the draft, before free agency. So yes, we'll be back with some more episodes. Any last closing comments, Ryan? Start with you, youngest person first.
Nah, I mean, it's an interesting playoff so far. Let's see what round two brings.
Okay. I just hope there's no injuries. I hope that there's no very controversial reffing. We didn't get into reffing in this episode here.
Oh, don't even get me started.
I just don't want to see, a bad goal that decides a series. Eric, closing comments?
We're ready, baby. We're ready. Let's go.
Leafs, man. One more high five there, Eric. There we go. Leafs. There we go. And Frank, closing comment.
Pity the fools being Leafs fans, because they're excited at the level of Stanley Cup champions right now. So it makes me think of the Stanley Cup tinfoil that went down Bloor Street or whatever. It's like, they drank so many Bud Lights. It's like they were celebrating like Jordan when he won his first NBA championship. And it's like, it's round one. I know it's been 19 years, but a little bit over the top. And
I have heard that the Leafs we bought rings for round one. So we have rings already.
In those little coin slots, right?
Yeah.
Those 25-cent coin vending machines. I think they got.
And I will just say about the reffing, hopefully we don't get controversy, because the one thing I hate to hear is the refs don't want to influence the game. But when you have teams that are built with a dominant power play, not calling the penalty is hurting those teams. Like, if you don't call penalties, Edmonton doesn't have his biggest advantage, which is 1 goal every 3 power plays. So they are affecting the game.
Right now, it's 1 goal every 2 power plays.
But it's like, call the fucking penalties, because these teams are built that you're taking the biggest weapon away from the teams. You are affecting the game. So,
you know what, Frank? You know what, Frank? Look at how shiny Eric's sunglasses are. I think they've been in a drawer for 19 years, and he's finally just so happy to break them out.
They are from the 80s, because that's risky business. Tom Cruise fucking sunglasses.
Tom Cruise, when he let himself go a little bit, I'm afraid. But, yeah.
No, just the sunglasses, not the person.
Which gas station did you get those from there, Eric? After Game 6, along with the coffee.
7-Eleven, man.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. It's been a fun episode. Can't wait to get into round 2, and we will catch up with you guys after round 2.
How awful we were in our prediction, but hopefully we're not awful, because we want Canadian teams to make this. We all picked Edmonton, and 3 of 4, so 7 out of the 8 picks were for Canadian teams. So hopefully we have some Canadian representation. Make Gary Buttman sweat a little bit, because he hates to have Canadian teams in the finals.
Yeah, Ryan kind of ruined it going.
I can't pick the Leafs. I can't do it.
If I can pick the Leafs, you could have sacrificed yourself.
That's right.
And that's why
if they beat Florida, they're going to the final. I'll say that.
The question that was why don't I have a Habs jersey last time and this time is I cannot in good conscience put a Habs jersey and choose the Leafs to win the series. That's my jersey would catch fire.
Well, one of the comments was a little bit of a side bet. So I think, if the Leafs make the finals, I think on that next episode, Ryan has to put on a Leafs jersey. What do you think about that?
Hell no.
I agree with
paper with a leaf on it.
No, I agree with that. Or a cap. Do you have a cap laying around?
How about if the Leafs win the next or this round, I'll pick them all the way to the cup and win.
No. You need to put some gear on.
You need some representation.
Or a shirt.
Ryan, there's so many Goodwill Leaf hats out there from all the previous years that people just donating them to Goodwill.
The 2022
I'm sure you could
Stanley
pick
Cup
one
champion hats, the 2021 Stanley Cup champion hats.
All those canceled parades that they had organized. Yeah, I'm sure you could find some.
I'll dig up some Leaf stuff. I'll wear some Leaf stuff next time. If they win. I doubt they win, but if they win.
All right, there we go. So
that's a side bet. That's a side bet.
There's the side bet.
I know Leafs, Ryan, would probably be willing to do that. I don't think we'd ever get him to do that with a Calgary Flame hat or jersey.
No, that's terrible.
That's wrong. Yeah.
Wait
all right, guys.
Next year we're doing side bets with Calgary in the playoffs. Man, that's gonna be interesting because Habs won't be in the playoffs, so I have to have fun with substitute teams.
All right, and
If Calgary makes the playoffs
lottery.
next year, I'll wear a Calgary jersey to work.
Oh,
And the-
there you go. We have it here. Prime
Okay,
time.
you heard it here one more time. If Calgary makes the playoffs next year, Ryan's going to wear a Calgary jersey to work. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I think I'll even take a picture, but I think they have a lot of work to do there. I don't think they're making the playoffs for a few
All
years.
right. All right. That's a good bet. That's a bet.
And I think we need something for Frank and for Eric with the Boston Bruins. I think maybe they should wear some Boston Bruins.
If Seattle makes it to the next round, I want to hear Frank say that Everly was the second best player in that.
I can't lie,
That's
man.
a good one.
You can't
In
ask me to lie.
2008.
Wearing gear is not lying. You're asking me to lie.
I
man.
have an Everly jersey here. I'll ship it to you.
Or better yet, if Seattle wins the next round, I think Frank on all 4 of his fantasy hockey teams has to put Everly on it for next season.
That'll cost him financially. So.
All right. Well, I've already lost the bet, only getting 2 right in that first round. So yeah, I sacrificed and went with the Toronto Maple Leaf jersey. But again, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. And again, we'll catch you after round number 2 with the next playoff episode. Have a wonderful day, wonderful evening. This has been the Average Albertan Podcast with Frank, Ryan, and who was that Toronto Maple Leaf player again?
George Armstrong.
In sunglasses. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you next episode.